Welcome to this video. Yes, this is the final video for the second Gashimov memorial. Yeah, this is a bit late, as I already pretty much announced when I released the video for round 7. It took a while to do round 8 and 9. Yeah, the reason was or is that I played a very important match with my team there in the German league, and fortunately we managed to tie our final match, which under the circumstances was enough to getting promoted to the second German league, which is kind of a sensation for our team because we on paper are rather one of the mediocre or not very strong teams in this league, but we still managed to promote. So great effort of the team. Well, what that meant that I was completely busy on the weekend, and now I'm ready to do the final 2 rounds. Let's get going. And I'll do both rounds in this video, so it will be rather longish, but also I'm going to not be so comprehensive on the games. The sorting order this time is completely random, meaning the order in which the games are on my notes, my piece of paper that I have to help me. So let's start with, because otherwise I'm losing track completely. Starting with Kramnik with white against Vachier-Lagrave. Round 8, of course, first. Yeah, I'm going to do this sorting. First round 8, then round 9, but within the round it's a bit random. Okay, we get going with this opening. Kramnik is playing his knight f3 g3 system that he's going for regularly in recent months and years almost. Yeah, bishop g4. This is a very solid setup here by MVL, something that is played rather often on all levels. It's a very healthy setup and leads to, well, simple development. Yeah, we see like this, black gets all the pieces out. Nevertheless, I have to admit that I was never a huge fan of this setup for black, due to the fact that it always felt, I never really knew what my plan is, right, with black. Well, white has some more clearer ideas, and we see what Kramnik is doing here. He goes a4 first, yeah, okay, gaining some space on the queen side. And now knight h4. This is always something that bothers me in the systems. This bishop here gets sometimes a bit sidelined here on the king side. And let's see here. Yeah, this is coming here with b4 and knight f5. Yeah, this is probably objectively equal, but I still would prefer white here a little bit. Note that the queen on e1 is doing a good job here supporting the queen side. Of course, it's nothing terribly bad for black, but I think Kramnik certainly was comfortable here. Yeah, knight e6.
Check.
He traded this and now is basically stating as white, okay, I've got the bishop pair, what do you have? Bishop g6 to attack the e4 pawn and f3. Yeah, f3 looks a bit ugly, but it's probably unavoidable to play. The main problem with this kind of move is that it weakens the g3 pawn and with it the king a little bit, but it doesn't seem that black has something great to attack it. In this position, the computer actually suggests to attack the pawn on g3 with knight h5, but it's difficult. It's a difficult move for a human to play. After c3, the comp wants to play f6 and bishop f7, and this knight is without any square. It sits there to be ready for g4, knight f4, but nobody plays g4. And what are you doing with your knight on h5 in the long run? Computer says this is equal. I rather prefer what MVL is playing, but the drawback of that setup is if you go f6 now in comparison to the knight h5 idea, now the d6 square is more difficult to protect as rook d8. Yeah, let's say I go here. In the other situation with the knight on h5, you might just play rook d8 and cover d6, and this is not possible here. Yeah, white is a little bit better here. Still f6, I think, was right. What Vachier is doing, he goes f5. And this is very aggressive looking, but it ultimately seems to weaken black. And the problem is shown very quickly. Rook d1 and now he went f4. Yeah, and after f4, white has a very strong transformation move. The engine is already giving white a very big plus and says that knight d4 is the relatively best defense, which already gives up a pawn, but also gives black some activity. Maybe that was an interesting idea to try to muddy the waters, but it is a very tricky position already. The thing is that after f4, which looks totally logical, there is a tactical idea for white. White can sacrifice the exchange. Yeah, I'm not sure if tactical is the right word, because the justification is that white gets this pawn and this pawn, and this is less tactical, more of a strategic compensation. We see that white has 2 pawns, of course, for the exchange, but well, excellent central control. This bishop is not well on g6, and the knight on e5 is an excellent piece. In fact, here the Frenchman already, what did he do? He already took there, right? Yeah, I wasn't sure if that was an intermediate move. He already decided to break the structure by returning or giving material himself. Yeah, I really understand this decision. You don't want to give white this big center. It's difficult. Maybe c5 was an alternative, trying to open up for the rooks. But white is better. Yeah, he can just take this. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's very difficult for black already. Those pawns are just very strong, and white has easy ideas. Yeah, queen up to activate and f5 in the right moment. Just not very good. Yeah, he took there and then gave the exchange there on e5, which ultimately leads to, yeah, white inserted those moves. Here, leads to this position where black is, if we do a count, black's got 4 pawns, white's got 6 pawns, so white is 2 pawns up, but black has some control over the dark squares. White's king is feeling a little bit uncomfortable. It's quite typical that here the engines, they just they just take b7 and say white wins. This is the situation for a human player. When you sit there at the board, you see, of course, that you can take on b7, yeah, and you probably think exactly the same what I just said. Well, a computer will probably take it and win easily, but for a human player, this is not easy to do, as the queen steps on a light square, and well, yeah, it looks like, what about rook d2, for example? Yeah, I was seeing exactly this position when the broadcast was on, and I was thinking, okay, what would I play? And I was thinking I would go queen e3, yeah, which is the move that covers the most dark squares, yeah, and then trying to convert the pawns, not grab an additional pawn. Funny thing is, queen e3 isn't the best move. Queen b7 is, but Kramnik played queen e3, so at least I wanted to play Kramnik's move. Not the best move, but Kramnik's move, which is in 99% of the cases pretty good. So, and it is a good move. It keeps a big advantage. It's not as killing as queen b7, but yeah, it is. If you look at queen b7, black can try a bit, but ultimately white is defending. Yeah, here white is consolidating and never lets go of his big advantage. So it was perfectly fine what he did. Yeah, here MVL gave up a piece there to get counterplay with the a-pawn, but
check.
Ultimately there was
check.
There was no chance given to him.
Check.
Yeah, and after rook b1 he resigned. Yeah, that was a somewhat strange game with one key moment. If we go back, I think that this f5 move is probably really questionable. After rook d1, it is difficult for black to get a decent position anymore. The knight d6 threat here, sorry, my mouse again. My knight d6 threat here for white is really problematic, and it's difficult. It's really difficult for black. Yeah, maybe he could have taken and go from there, but well, it's really hard. Knight d6 is a threat. You cannot move this rook here as a7 is hanging. Black is really in surprisingly big problems here already. So f5 was really a mistimed move. Okay, let's go to the next game. This is Mamedyarov Caruana, and we have a Ruy Lopez with d4. So Caruana was maybe speculating on this line to happen again, as Mamedyarov had played it before in a game. I have to admit that I forgot. I think again against Mickey Adams it was. Okay, so bishop g4, bishop e3. This is what he had played before, exactly that. But now Caruana takes and plays. Try to remember what am I playing here? I think knight a5, right? Knight a5 and c5. Yeah, okay. Okay, well, this was what Caruana played. This is a principled alternative to the knight a5, c5 idea, which was also what Adams played, I think. Yeah, d5. After d5, we get an entirely different position. e5 and knight jumps to e4. This looks a little bit like the open Spanish, but the difference to the open Spanish is that Black's piece formation is a bit more active than he usually manages, and this is definitely enough for a round equality. We get an interesting position here really quickly. Here, and now Mamedyarov is going for rook c1, which is interesting because it simply ignores an idea of the, if you want, ignores the idea of the move queen to d7. Yeah, this was an idea. And, well, now white has to take with the queen. As bishop takes, knight takes, loses the house. Or let's say the center, which is enough. Yeah, queen has to take, takes. Yeah, and this was allowed by Mamedyarov. It wasn't necessary. He could have played g4, for example, to push the bishop back. But this is really interesting now. Of course, queen h3 loses due to rook c6, so cannot take on h3. What about this move, though? Interesting. That was a possibility, but not good. After queen c2, bishop e1, queen c6. White retains a great position for the exchange. Yeah, something like this, for example. If we check this, now c7 is under attack and d5 is under attack. And, well, let's say bishop a5, bishop d5, bishop back, and something like this. This is a position where a practical player clearly prefers white, because white has the big center and all the ideas, while black is just sitting there and cannot do much. This is not totally forced, by the way. White can also think of other moves here, but bishop e4 is pretty logical. Yeah, this is a nice position for white, I think. So it was avoided by Caruana. He went... He started with the bishop move, but now went knight e7. He didn't grab the rook. Yeah, bishop d2 now. Takes. Yeah, and note that now h3 is hanging. It was taken for rook c7 and knight f5. Interesting double-edged position. And at first you think that it looks risky for white. White's king looks quite open. There's knight h4 and ideas like that. But white has got active pieces. The bishop here is always attacking the pawn, and the rook is on the 7th rank. Queen g5. That was a necessary move, activating the queen and looking at critical squares on the king side. Yeah, rook d8 was played. Yeah, let's have a look there. What about this? That looks good. But after bishop d5, we see that black has no exceptionally good move. It is protected here, and the rook hangs on a8. There's nothing special here, really. Black can also try this move, but this is also answered by bishop d5. Yeah, if we think about this kind of thing. Yeah, here I'd rather be white. Yeah, with the central pawns and the active rook on c7. Yeah, it's quite surprising. The situation is not clear at all. Rook d8 is probably a good move. Okay, now e6 was played. Very, very sharp move, but white cannot really just sit around. And it is really funny now, because the next couple of moves seem rather forced, and it leads to a very nice finish of the game already. Knight d4 was taken, bishop d5, and well, bishop d5. Doesn't that look kind of tricky? Yeah, what about rook takes d5? Isn't this strong? It was played. The funny thing is, it only leads to a draw. It looks very strong because of knight f3, but have a look at this. White is checking here, intermediate move. King h8, yeah, was necessary. Yeah, this is...
Check. Checkmate.
This is a mate, so black had to go to h8. And now the funny thing is, queen takes d5 was played.
Check.
Knight f3 takes, and rook e8. And black is a queen up for a rook, and it looks like white is completely open here with the king. So it really looks like there should be some kind of checking sequence that wins for black, but there isn't. There absolutely is no sequence of checks that does win. Yeah, it's quite remarkable. The game ended with this kind of perpetual. We will see that Caruana tried the best, right? He gave a couple of checks and then went to d6. And first glance you think, oh wow, that is great. I have protected this rook. If white takes, queen takes, black is safe. Yeah, it's nothing happening. Rook cannot come to e8. But the funny thing is, white has rook c to e7. Yeah, this is great. Yeah, he's just blocking this, threatening rook f8 again, and again it's just a draw. It's really funny. Yeah, so Caruana now decided to end this game with this kind of perpetual. What we can check is a way to continue would be queen f7. Yeah, rook takes e8, rook a7 though, and white will pick up this pawn. So there is absolutely nothing to be gained here by black. He's also having this back rank problem. So black cannot just play rook e6 to cover the pawn or something. He has to take care about the back rank. Let's say something like this. Like here, and rook a5 coming. There's absolutely nothing to gain here for black. It's just a draw. Okay, so next game. It was a funny draw. It's some draws are better than others. Okay, this next game is Wesley So with white against Magnus Carlsen. Interesting matchup, of course. The young Filipino-American player against the world champion. They didn't play that often, so it's interesting. Okay, we have an English opening. And now knight d5 was played by Wesley. Yeah, here white has a wide choice. He can also play something like d3. Knight d5 is interesting though, and black again now has an interesting choice. He can move the bishop again, maybe to c5, or can take. The capture and knight d4 was Carlsen's choice. This is probably a more solid way to play than putting the bishop on c5. It's not a huge difference. Black's overall approach to that is very classical and sound. The next move, however, by white, Wesley So now took on d4. That was a little bit disappointing, I thought. I think it's a bit more interesting here for white to play a move like knight e1, or not a move like exactly knight e1. I know it looks a bit strange to retreat, but the idea is to kick the knight away from d4 next and then get the knight back into play. This keeps a little bit more tension on the board and more pieces. It was a bit more interesting, but he took on d4 and went queen a4. Not that this is bad, it's just not so interesting to play. In general, that's a quite funny tendency. If you have positions that only have bishops on, two sides with bishops, then really quite often it is a bit boring. I know it sounds a bit strange, but sometimes the knights do inject life into positions because they are that quirky pieces that can jump. It's kind of, it sounds strange, but quite often a pure bishop position is very static. Yeah, because there is nothing extraordinary happening. It's all kind of a bit slowish, yeah. And this is also applying to that game. A5 was played, E3 and B5. Interesting way to play by Magnus. He develops his bishops that way. Like this, it's not such a great idea. So back, and now bishop B7. Yeah, black has gained a bit of space here on the queen side, and can certainly be satisfied with the outcome of the opening. Now B3 was played. Yeah, white, by the way, had the opportunity to take the pawn, but well, this is not a pretty sight. Black is definitely welcoming that. One way to play after that capture is just a move like this to block the d pawn, and then trying to pick up the pawns one after the other. It's just very unaesthetic way to play. B3 is far more logical. Queen G5 attacking the D5 pawn, and now A3 back and bishop B2. Yeah, black is attacking D5 and now is taking the pawn. It certainly fitting well with Queen G5. E4 was played. Yeah, I'm sorry, I misread my piece of paper here. I was thinking that this was played, but this is in fact not such a great idea. If we look at this, here black is definitely more comfortable, yeah, with more space on the queen side and this A3 pawn being a target. E4 is stronger. Bishop back and taking now. This is the stronger way to play, keeping those bishops on the board. C5 was played anyhow, and Queen G6. Yeah, all in all, black looks comfortable here. D3 and A4. Yeah, black has a bit more space and some targets on the queen side. However, there was never really a situation where black got to something very substantial. It looked a bit threatening, but the b pawn here was not so dangerous ultimately. Yeah, bishop to A4 is an idea, but white defended precisely. Rook C8, Queen D4. Yeah, note that B4 is hanging, so black has to take care of that. And now D4. Yeah, that is probably last really interesting moment of the game. Carlsen now went bishop to B6. He could have played bishop A3. That was interesting. And after bishop A3, white is forced to give up the exchange with rook B3. But he still didn't play it, yeah, Carlsen. Note that white cannot play this. This is not a good idea. Now B2 gets far too strong with bishop C2 being the main idea. Also bishop C6 in the game. Yeah, he would have taken there. And we can look at this position here with the exchange. But we have a situation where everything is on one side of the board, and white's position, if you imagine that the bishop will come to this well-anchored place on E3, white has a very well-coordinated position, one pawn for the exchange, and D7 is also a weak pawn, yeah, like queen here, bishop here, I'm sorry, to H3. White has compensation for the exchange, and I think black's winning chances are basically zero. This is why he played bishop B6, trying to keep it more complicated. Yeah, bishop E3, H6, yeah, making sure that you're not back rank checkmated. But yeah, we had this transformation with a little tactic there.
Check. Check.
And a couple of moves later, not sure when exactly, here they agreed to a draw. That was a very correct draw, I think. No side ever got got something substantial. Black Carlsen looked a bit more comfortable around these moves here, but ultimately those resources with giving the exchange here for the pawn should be enough to draw the game. So pretty sound and correct draw in that game. Okay, let's look at the next game now. This is Adams with white playing Anish Giri. Two players who certainly did not or do not enjoy that tournament very much. Giri was on -1 and Adams was on last place, I think, after round 7. Okay, so what do we get? A Sicilian and an open Sicilian. Well, good stuff. Knight off and G3 being played. Yeah, G3 against the knight off, that's not exactly the most exciting move, but it can lead to interesting positions nevertheless, and we will see that in this game. Black's main choice here is between e6 and e5. Giri goes for e6, transposing to a Scheveningen type of position. Yeah, I'm not perfect with Scheveningen, but it's early in the day. E5 is the alternative. This was, for example, played by Kasparov in his match that was played against Nigel Short. Yeah, very, very nice match. If you did not watch on any of that, it was broadcasted live by the St. Louis Chess Club, and you also will find it on the YouTube channel. Two times 3 hours of Kasparov versus Short. Great stuff. Good to see those two legends in action. Yeah, this is what Kasparov played, but e6 is of course also possible. Yeah, and we have all those very normal looking moves. Rook b8, yeah, preparing some b5 later. Queen c7. King h1, that's all know that kind of stuff. Yeah, and now g4. This is also the reason why g3 is not necessarily a boring variation. It just starts a little bit slow, but white has aggressive ideas, and this is one of them. Yeah, first getting short castled king h1, and now push the pawns there on the king side. This is a bit comparable to the classical variation with 6 bishop e2. If we go back here, bishop e2. That's also starting slow, but can get rather sharp later with white pushing this g4 just as a later stage. Yeah, I like those kind of approaches by white. They are not burning bridges, but still leading to interesting games. Yeah, Giri now went h6, which is technically a novelty. Yeah, I'm not an expert about this, but in general, the move h6 is something that is played quite often in those structures. One idea is that if white goes g5, which is not a great idea in this particular position probably, but I want to show the idea. If black takes and white takes, black goes somewhere, then now e5 is a very nice outpost for black's pieces. This is why the insertion of the trade h and f pawn is helping black, because white gives up his control over e5. This is one idea to play h6. However, it's of course also a hook pawn, a pawn that helps white to open up lines in some cases. It's a very double-edged decision to play such a move. However, queen e2 and not g5. White wants to prepare this properly. Yeah, and now Giri went knight b4. Well, it's a risky decision to get this knight decentralized. I mean, decentralized is the wrong word. He's looking at the c2 pawn, but also gives white the opportunity to get his knight back to d4. Rook c8, rook d1, queen c4, queen f3. Yeah, and now we come to the next couple of moves are key for the whole game. And I have to admit that with my really limited time on this weekend, I couldn't totally figure out what went wrong now for black. I actually do question the move e5 already, but I'm not sure completely. It's really too complicated. Too complicated for such a brief analysis that I did to be really sure what was wrong there. Yeah, e5. I think this has two problems actually. The move that Adams played was putting black under quite a bit of pressure. Knight f5 that was, but there also was g5, and g5 is also really tricky move to play. Maybe it was even better. The idea is that if we take him and black takes, we have rook d4 with a tempo, and let's say queen goes back, we take here. Yeah, this is a very annoying possibility. It's very tricky, very complicated. G5 was very interesting, but knight f5 also gave black quite a bit of an agenda here. Takes, and now after takes on f4, rook d4, queen back, and bishop takes. Now Giri actually took on c2, and after that he's definitely in huge trouble. The comp wants to play queen c5 and try to defend like that, but after h4, white is just better. There's no question about that. You can fight with d4, yeah, but white is better with this g5 business coming. This is one point or one occasion where the h6 move is really blowing up in your face a little bit. Yeah, this was played, and after that I think black's lost. Rook back, knight b4, and now h4. And you immediately see that white has a strong attack with g5. But what is not so apparent to the human eyes, that white is really already winning. There's absolutely nothing to stop the attack. The big point is that after knight h7 that was played, white now does not need to play any preparatory moves. He can play g5 immediately. An interesting line was queen c6, by the way, trying to trade queens. It's quite funny that besides the side steps that are, queen e2 is a good move, but white can also even trade queens. That is not bad at all, if we just want to show how problematic the position is for black. This kind of situation, a move like rook h2, intending king up, well, my mouse, king up, and rook h1 is basically deadly. Yeah, it's really bad. Yeah, okay, he went knight h7, and now the bad thing is that white doesn't even need to waste a move here. He can play g5 immediately, and this is exactly due to the unprotected state of this knight. If we look at this, let's say, what was my note? Yeah, here actually queen g3, but this was the funniest line. And it's a double attack. It's a complete double attack. Both knights are hanging and one is getting lost. Yeah, this is a bit different, but queen g3 is very strong. There's really no defense against that. What was the line? Queen g3, knight h7, and this going here. And there's knight e4. White is attacking with all pieces. It's too much. Yeah, this is what Giri tried, but then f6 was the decisive blow. Pawn took, yeah, if black tries to sacrifice here, this kind of thing. Knight e4 is one problem. It's really a far too dangerous attack. Yeah, knight here, knight to d6. That was already possible right away, but this was hanging with check. So it's better to play this first. Yeah, white is smashing. This is a position, if you give this to a computer, it's not just like white is better, it's like +5, yeah? The computer already calculates this is crashing through. Yeah, this was played, but now the open G file is is just decisive. Yeah, Adams is by nature a solid positional player, but that doesn't mean that he is not able to attack if the opportunity is there, and he's really really doing a good job here in destroying black's defenses here. Rook d6 is quite powerful if the rook is taken. Knight d6. How do you defend here? Going back. Okay. Look at the poor queen. Yeah, that's not ending well. Yeah, this was played. Bishop h6. Takes. Rook c6. Yeah, and now after
check.
queen g4, king here,
Check.
and rook h7. Giri resigned the game after king takes, knight f6, check.
Check.
He's going to get checkmated, or in this case loses the queen for absolutely nothing. So a crushing victory here by Mickey Adams. Yeah, and showing that a slowish build-up here can still lead to an interesting attacking game. I think critical was the stage around here, starting with knight b4 and queen c4. I'm not a huge fan of that, but that's not my type of position. It's difficult for me to give a very educated opinion on that. I'm pretty sure that e5 was at least a very risky move, and knight takes c2 here was the losing move. Yeah, a tough game for Giri. To be perfectly honest, if we go back there, I really like e5 more here. Trying to stop white's in its tracks with any attacking ambitions, but that's not an objective evaluation. It's just my personal preference. I tend to prefer to have a pawn there on e5 to grab more central space. Okay, next game of this round 8 that I'm going to cover is Anand Mamedyarov. Is it also the final game of that round? It is, right. So I'm making good progress here. Okay, let's see what Anand did. We have this and the Petrov. Quite surprising, but it is part of Mamedyarov's repertoire. He didn't play it yet in this event. I think mostly because they played d4 against him. But yeah, let's say what Vichy is doing. He was knight c3. Okay, interesting decision. Not one of the main lines, but certainly a playable move. And I'm actually... It's interesting what Vichy is doing. Let's put it that way. He goes for the Spanish 4 knights. And I always thought that this is an area where white can try a little bit. I mean, not that this is great for white, but they play many lines in the anti-Berlin with d3 that are also just nothing for white, or very, very, very little. And I don't think that this is a huge difference, the Spanish 4 knights, in terms of, let's say, ambition. Yeah, if you try in the anti-Berlin, why not try here? One point is, of course, that knight d4 is a move, the Rubinstein variation. This can lead to sharp play, though. It's not boring at all. But Mamedyarov goes for bishop b4 and castles, d3, d6. And now Anand comes up with an interesting choice. The main move here is bishop g5, but Anand goes for knight e2. That's interesting. The idea is to get the Spanish maneuver completed with knight g3 and then play c3. This position type that we get, because Mamedyarov is playing basically the same thing. Yeah, he brings the knight over, and now bishop b6. This could easily happen out of an anti-Berlin, but note that the knight on g3, very often it goes there via here, here, and here. And here white didn't even have to play the move rook e1. It is coming now anyway, but it's quite interesting. It could be that this position, you could probably construct some kind of move order to make this happen from an anti-Berlin. And it shows that there are many interesting, well, interesting is a bit much. It's not like this leaves you jumping up in joy, this kind of position, but there are some sidelines, let's say, that are still leading to to full play. This is not a particularly boring position. I mean, white has both sides. All pieces are on the board, and you can get an interesting game later. I don't want to look at all moves there. I think this is all fairly logical looking. Yeah, they connect rooks. A5. And now interesting approach by Anand, C4. Yeah, he occupies the center even more and introduces the idea to play C5 if given the opportunity. Yeah, Mamedyarov goes A4, rook D1, and now he captured on D4, bishop takes. Yeah, all this is, I think, fairly normal looking. Bishop C5, rook D2. An interesting little fact is that here bishop C5. At first you think, okay, well, what about this? Isn't this good for white? Yeah, getting this pawn structure here.
Check.
With a double pawn. In fact, this is a pretty well-known pawn structure, and it quite often arises from a completely different opening from the Bogo Indian. Yeah, it's actually a structure that I sometimes have in my own games. In the Bogo Indian, however, white usually has fianchettoed, while here there is this formation. The reason why black is okay here is that those pawns are on light squares, and this means that the white bishop in relation to the pawns here isn't very great. Black also has this target there and a weak square on d4. Quite often queen can come to e5 or to f4 in this case even, and the knight might have roots like here, 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 and to d4 if everything falls into place for black. So this is not a particularly great structure and was avoided by Anand. He just doubles on the d file. Rook d2, knight went back, rook d1, rook d8. Yeah, here maybe instead of rook d8, black should have thought about simplifying a bit. But I think white is a bit more comfortable here in any case, just a little bit.
Check.
This was what I was thinking. Maybe you can trade off a bit and now go knight e5. Yeah, trading is probably not a bad idea here as you have less space. But in any case, let's say after bishop e2, rook d8 and f4, white certainly is a bit better. f5 is one important move to make sure that the knight is not coming to a really bad spot. Like this, this, this. Yeah, this is an interesting and key line. Rook d6 is a mistake. Yeah, we will see something similar in the game happening, but here white is especially suffering from the fact that this knight is unprotected. So white shouldn't take there, but he can play like f6, for example, for an interesting position. Queen here. Sorry, knight d4 and queen here. It leads to an interesting game. I think maybe taking was an option, simplifying. Rook d8. Now we see an interesting move by Vichy. He goes knight h4, and this is quite strong, I think. Yeah, he avoids the trades and makes sure a knight comes to f5, and this really keeps black under quite substantial pressure. Black now traded and went c5, of course. Yeah, again trying to get the control over d4. You're weakening d5, but that's not a huge deal. The big point is, however, what about this? Rook takes d6. That was played, and now knight c6. Yeah, at first it's quite difficult to understand why could black give up the d6 pawn. The idea is that knight d4 is now an absolute key resource. Vichy was playing this, but let's have a look there. What happens if white is just retreating the rook? Yeah, trying to just keep the pawn. Yeah, the problem is that after knight d4, queen here, knight e5, black gets really nice compensation for the pawn. Yeah, what about those knights? That's really great. Excellent pieces. So black has great compensation. Yeah, Vichy was playing knight h to f5, and this is really strong. The idea is that after knight d4, he had now the move queen to d2. Yeah, this is protected. Knight e5 now. Yeah, and what about this now? What about this rook? Yeah, isn't this like forced to take on
Check.
d8? Yeah, but have a look. Rook takes, and what exactly does white play now? The problem is that this is really awkward. Yeah, for this kind of threat. If white is taking here, rook takes. Note that c4 is also under pressure and will probably fall. Yeah, this is really nothing for white. So what did Vichy play? He played rook d5. Yeah, remember he had sacrificed an exchange earlier in the game against Mickey Adams, and again he does it here. Rook d5, just putting the rook on a control square. Yeah, black took it. Okay, pawn takes, queen to b6. Yeah, maybe knight takes e2 was a bit more precise, but it's probably not a huge difference. f4, knight g6. I want to get to this position here. We see that white's compensation for the exchange is really, really nice. He has this excellent pawn center and the great knight on f5. So a very, very nice compensation. Instead of knight g6, by the way, black also could have traded on e2. We should look at this briefly. It was a pretty decent alternative, or decent is the wrong word. It was an alternative to be considered. This is what I was trying to say. Queen e2. Check. And this was at first looking quite good when I looked at it, but then queen g4 dawned on me. This is a bit strong. What about this? Here you have to go g6, and after this you're getting destroyed. This is looking nice on d3, but it's ultimately just alone. Yeah? It doesn't really do anything substantial. Yeah, went back and bishop c4. Yeah, queen a5, queen f2, and b5 for counterplay. Yeah, knight takes d4, bishop a2, b4. That's all very... That looks quite logical. And now I think maybe here we can improve upon Anand's play. And note that the clock times doesn't make any sense, but Mamedyarov didn't have much time. That's clear, but he didn't lose on time here. Anand now played knight f5. Very normal looking move, but it seems that f5 was very interesting, and then knight h5 with this queen g3 idea. After the move in the game, knight f5, it seems that Mamedyarov is gaining quite some play, but it's very tricky. I mean, I really don't think that I analyzed this properly, to be perfectly honest. I can show you some ideas, but I'm not completely sure. But we have to take into consideration that they also didn't have much time to analyze this position in the game. And it is ultimately a very, very complicated affair. Queen c3, e5. I can show you one key moment. Rook b8, and now Anand played rook d2 as rook b2 was a threat. Yeah, here there are very, very interesting possibilities. Mamedyarov took on a3, which is probably too risky. I'm saying really probably because I'm not totally sure. d3 was interesting. This is what I looked at a little bit, the d3 move, pushing the pawn, and there are really crazy complications there. For example, I can show you one line that the engine is giving. It's really, really funny line. d6, and if the black queen now takes now on a3, white can consider the sacrifice. Check. Bishop f7, queen a7 check. This is really, really funny. It looks super dangerous, and after king e6, now the move knight e3. White is just playing a rook down, but look at this attacking ideas. Yeah, like f5. Yeah, the black king is completely out in the open. Yeah, the main line now is, and the all only moves, rook b1 check, king up, and queen b4. That is really the only defense that black has. Rook f2 now. I know it looks completely bizarre. Yeah, there are many things now. I mean, black cannot take, for example, as mate.
Checkmate.
Yeah, and we are renewing the f5 idea. Yeah, how does black defend against that? I really forgot that. Queen b7, yeah? And now white is getting stuff back.
Check.
f5, check. King d7, yeah, has to be played. Yeah, this is
Check.
not ending well. Ah, now I screwed up the whole line. Ah, wrong button. Yeah, okay, let's do this again. It's really too crazy not to show.
Check.
So,
Check.
tack, this one and check here.
Check.
There's rook f2, queen b7 here,
Check.
exactly. Yeah, and now queen
Check.
a4. Queen a4, check. Queen c6, check again.
Check.
Rook b7, and now
Check.
e6. Yeah, look at those pawns. Takes,
Check.
check here,
Check.
and again. And queen takes g6. That's a completely crazy line. That the computer, quite funny, assesses as slightly better for white. Yeah, okay. Yeah, there were many crazy possibilities. Playing this over the board is, of course, murderous. You just have to go with your instincts and play something. Okay, he took on a3, knight d4, check, king h2. What I'm pretty sure about is that the next move now is a mistake. Well, rook bc8 was played, but it's move 40. You have to play it and hope for the best. The computer gives rook b7 is better, but I'm really unsure if it would have helped the game. Probably not. I think maybe really queen takes a3 instead of d3 was the problem, but I'm really unsure. It is too complicated to tell. I mean, I sat there with the comp for about 10 minutes and with these positions, and I couldn't really come to a clear conclusion. I just showed one or two things of what I checked, but this is definitely losing after d6. The attack now is too strong. a3, knight f5. Yeah, we have the ideas there on. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm my mouse. Yeah, I looked at new ones, but it's a tricky decision to buy a mouse. I think there's tons of things. I mean, there are tons of models, and it's it's in your hand all of the time, and you have to really check what fits your hand and whatever. It's not so easy to buy one. Yeah, have to bear with me. Yeah, well, here really the attack is too strong. Rook f8 was played, covering f7 and d7 now, and after that Mamedyarov resigned. Yeah, after rook cd8 there's queen d4 intending e6, and it's impossible to stop that. Yeah, a line that the engine is giving us this with a quite funny position. White is just winning one of the rooks with this fork, and there's still d7 alive, which will probably promote as well. So great win here for Anand in this penultimate round, which got him within half a point range of the leading player of this event, Magnus Carlsen. Yeah, let's get to the final round then. And as announced, this video is quite long, but final round can be done a bit quicker, I have to say. Let's go with Mamedyarov Adams. Two players who probably cannot be too satisfied with their event. They got, I think, one win in. Yeah, Adams beat Giri and Mamedyarov beat Kramnik, but they also lost games. So let's see. We have a Queen's Gambit, and Adams is going for the classical line with bishop e7. He's not playing the Rogozin, and Mamedyarov goes for bishop g5 here. Yeah, I think he's one of the players who prefer bishop g5 most of the time compared to bishop f4. But in this game we see how solid the Tartakova is. b6 is a Tartakova variation. Bishop d3, bishop b7, castles, knight bd7. The Tartakova is what I usually recommend to people if they tell me, yeah, okay, I'd like to play in a solid way with black. Queen's Gambit declined is okay. Then I'm always recommending the Tartakova because it gets a pretty good balance between solid game and still some chances to do something as black, especially if you are willing to take some strategic risks. Then black can definitely play this type of position with some ambition. You have to take some risks though. Bishop g3, c5 takes. Here, for example, if you want to do something as black, it's not the best move, but if you want to be more ambitious, you can take with the pawn. This is a bit better for white, this hanging pawns type of positions, but it is interesting to play for black. You can expect to get a sharp position later. But Adams played knight d5. This is the better move, really, but also a little bit more boring move, we have to say. Rook c1 was played. Yeah, in the recent game Nakamura with white against Wesley So in the US Championships, this was played by Nakamura. Queen e2, and after takes, this was played, right? Knight takes, bishop f6, rook d1 takes. We had an about equal position. Yeah, this was played by Mamedyarov, knight f6, and now the capture. Yeah, this is after a5 now very, very sound for black. Yeah, you have usually you can go queen to e7, blocking, sorry about my mouse, blocking b4. So black is very, very, very okay here. Knight h5. And after bishop e5, now we got some trades and takes. Queen takes is blundering stuff. Oh, it's actually possible. I wasn't really seeing that the knight hangs, but it just leads nowhere, of course. Just totally equal. Yeah, but this was played. That's a bit more interesting. Check. Back. Yeah, here already a knight takes g3 was possible with a very equalish position. But Adams went for some strengthening moves first. Now he went back. Yeah, the thing is that this is opposite colored bishops, which is always, not always, sorry, that's really the wrong word, but often is increasing the chance for a drawish outcome of the game. Yeah, white is a bit more active with his rooks, but rook d8 is coming. Nothing's happening here. In the game, they actually repeated quite quickly here with this and now agreed to a draw. Yeah, that was a pretty boring game, but you really understand if you see that those tournaments, they are exhausting, 8 rounds, and this is the final round. They both didn't do well, and well, you can try a little bit, but if nothing's really happening out of the opening, a draw is not a particularly bad result. Okay, the next game is maybe I can adjust the sorting a little bit for the final standings, let's say. Okay, let's go with Giri Kramnik. Yeah, here I have to admit that I made a practical decision here about this game, how to present it. This game is long, really, really long. It's 80 moves, and I'm going to show some key moments, or one key moment, let's say, because it's just too long to cover. 80 moves is a bit of a stretch. I will give you one little piece of information about the opening. It's a Catalan. Yeah, Giri playing the Catalan against Kramnik. It's a bit cheeky, as Kramnik is the Catalan guru. Yeah, I want to point out this line, the early queen c2 that Giri is playing here. This is an interesting move I want to recommend for white players if you play those kind of openings. This is not a very popular line, but quite interesting. The idea is that covering c4 is tempting black into taking, thinking that this is the same thing as usual, but that's not the case. After a6 here, white has the immediate bishop f4, and with this attack on c7, you really prevent b5. So this is not the same thing. White has not castled yet. So queen c2 is interesting. The best reply to queen c2 is c5, as Kramnik played here in this game. And now white gets interesting play. After this, we have a position here in the game that very much looks like a Grunfeld with reversed colors. Yeah, the queen on c2, and this can easily happen from a Grunfeld. If you imagine just having it with colors reversed. I mean, this is not an advantage for white, but it's an interesting twist how to play. And this early taking on c4, for example, is a mistake that's happening quite often. It really is not accurate. White is getting a good game there. Okay, I don't want to, as said, cover this in so much detail. We had an equalish position, I think, out of the opening. This bishop is looking a bit strange on a6, but it's nothing serious. And did I make some notes there? Not really. Yeah, we had this transformation, and well, Kramnik is suffering a bit with his pawn structure there. And he never got in c4, so it looks like white is a bit better. The real question is about a little bit later. Yeah, instead of there was an alternative there, f4, e5. Here queen g2 looked good to me. I was a bit surprised that this was avoided by Giri, which seems to trade queens or push black's queen back, and well, this is not looking too great. White is better here. Yeah, he went knight c4, and now Kramnik got in a4. I was a bit surprised by that he allowed that. Yeah, okay, this is still a really long game ahead of us, so I'm not going to be very I'm not going to do this in detail. They traded to this endgame. Yeah, if you do a count there, it's equal material, but white is a bit more active there against the c-pawn. It still looks very drawish though. Well,
check.
Let's get ahead there.
Check.
Yeah, white was getting some ground there on the king side, winning a pawn, but black had the c-pawn. And it seems that Giri really got a nice advantage out of that. Yeah, here with this pawn, and he got his e-pawn ahead.
Check, check, check.
Yeah, those endgames are notoriously tricky with the knights.
Check.
Yeah, black had quite a bit of checks.
Check.
Around this time here, it's very interesting to look at this position. It's really complicated, but well, as mentioned, I had to make some shortcuts here for this video to not make it 2 hours. And I'm going to concentrate on one particular situation here. And this is happening a couple of moves later. If you want to look at a technical endgame, this is it. Yeah, look at this endgame. It's quite interesting to trying to calculate. Here, this is the key position. Yeah, we have to see that. Well, the clock times are not entirely correct there, but we are dealing now about a situation where they have an increment. Is it 30 seconds? I'm not sure. It might be 30 seconds. But they only get it after move 60, so they were really down on time. And this is notoriously tricky, as I said, with the knights there. And they had played 8 rounds before and so on. Here, Giri is playing the move rook to, or plays the move, as someone recently pointed out to me. I should say plays and not is playing. Yeah, he plays, or he played, rook a4. Yeah, and it looks perfectly normal. Getting this tempo, rook g4 looks quite strong, but that seems to be only drawing. The move that wins is rook d7, which is of course brutally pointed out by the computer. Rook d7, and it says +5 or something. Yeah, the thing is that after rook d7, black cannot stop the pawn. After rook takes, for example, here there's king f8, and now the pawn is promoting. It's quite funny that here this is just winning. Here black has no way. The knight is just on a terrible spot. It cannot stop king move and f8. Just impossible. And white in any other case will just promote with the e-pawn. Yeah, so instead of taking, it can also go, I don't know where, like here, go e7.
Check.
Very unfortunate. Yeah, that was the win. Yeah, would have been very nice for Giri, and probably a deserved win after this. I mean, this is always heartbreaking. You play 70 moves and then you play one bad move that is not apparently. I mean, it's not like you instantly see that this is bad, right? It's just that the other move is winning, and this also looks very good, but it's simply not enough. It does not win. The knight move here is threatening this idea, amongst others.
Check.
Yeah, it's not enough.
Check.
It really is not enough. Black gets this pawn. And when did they agree to a draw?
check,
Here they did agree to a draw. After king f6, I think. Yeah, here they agree to a draw. The funny thing is that if white tries to... White is not, not looking and tries to play g4. Yeah, you're even getting...
check, check,
Even getting checkmated yourself. That would have been... wow, that would have been a howler. Yeah, but you know, after 7 hours of playing, all kinds of weird things happening. Yeah, the problem is if you cannot play g4, how are you keeping the pawn there? You're not. So a draw here. Yeah, disappointing for Giri for sure after this long struggle to not get a win in. But yeah, they both didn't have a great tournament. So next game is MVL, Maxime Vachier-Lagrave with white against Wesley. So, and we have a Caruana. Okay. Int e5. Yeah, this is what they almost all play, the advance. And we get an interesting variation here. So is going for a sharp approach to this opening. Well, they quite often nowadays play without the early c5. They play like knight d7, knight e7, those slowish build-ups. For example, this is what Giri played against Anand earlier in the event. But this is the sharpest way to play. Queen b6, c3, knight c6. Yeah, here in this particular position, we had a well-known game where Vachier-Lagrave was black actually against Caruana last year in the Singfield Cup in St. Louis. This was part of Caruana's streak of wins. There Caruana played castles and won a nice game. But knight a4 was played in this game by Maxime. Yeah, this leads pretty much by force to what we see now. Queen a5, c3, and the capture there. That is the idea. After those trades, black gets a little bit of relief there because of the reduced material count, and he gets knight e7, c6 in. This idea with queen b6, queen a5 check is quite well known from the French defense. Of course, here we have the bishop on f5, which is looking good first sight as usual as in the Caruana, but sometimes you also lose time with the bishop or you have problems on the light squares. This is also what we see here. This is a typical way to try to exploit the bishop there with those pawn pushes. White is gaining lots of space. Yeah, here knight c6 was played. And after castles, we had this simplification. Yeah, an interesting turn of events. Rook c1. Yeah, note that in this position, black shouldn't try this here. Yeah, you can take the pawn there with check. But, well, this is not yet castled. And sorry for my mouse again. White has this check in the mix. Yeah, let's have a look there. Maybe queen d7, trying to prevent bishop b5. Well, have a look at this. f5, the bishop, and e6. This is not going to end well. Yeah, let's say takes here. To take here.
Check.
And this is a huge threat. A huge threat. White is winning here quite quickly. Yeah, so this was not possible. Black could not take the pawn. Castles was played. Rook takes, queen d7. Yeah, and this first glance looks really nice for white. Yeah? He's got a huge advantage in space and he's quicker on the c-file. In the game, let's have a look what happened in the game. Here. I was a bit surprised that when we got this, here we had this position.
Check. Check.
Here. I was really thinking that this should be really good for white, but it's in the game. Let's have a look what happened here. This kind of position, it looks overwhelming for white. Yeah, you're controlling the 7th rank, and I mean, I was thinking, isn't this just possible to bring the king up here and win with the a pawn? What is black doing here? It's quite interesting. If we look at this, rook c7, I don't know why was this necessary. If you go king f3, I didn't look at this game too much. There was bishop c2, I see. That is the counterplay. Okay, so this is why he went here, to prevent bishop c2, bishop f3, h3, rook a5, rook a5. Okay. Rook c1, h5, and now he captured. Yeah, the thing is that white's pawns here are a bit vulnerable. Maybe g5 was more interesting. I mean, white only has to get the king over there, and he will win the game. Maybe g5. After this capture here, black got this, and now you always have this counterplay. Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe black is still okay there, but it looked very tricky. Wouldn't be surprised if some deeper analysis gives white something. In the game, we got this repetition, and now e5. Yeah, opening up for activation of the king and trading down to a rook endgame. And this is really just a draw. Yeah? Black gets this back. And I think they even traded those pawns there. Yeah, and here they agreed to a draw. Yeah, that was probably there was something for white. I neglected this game a little bit, I have to say. Now that I see my notes, it seems like I didn't really look at this very much. But the question is, if around here, if there is some improvement for white. It really looks like there should be something. I would be really surprised if this is just a draw. So I mean, cannot really believe it. Maybe g5. I'm kind of curious here. What about this? You go here again. Okay, well, this is not possible. Like here, and now if you go here, bishop e8. Yeah. Most rook endgames wouldn't be a problem. Yeah, but this one might be, yeah, because of the weak dark squares. There is this route. Yeah, it looks, sorry again for the mouse. Yeah, it looks tricky. Somewhere around here there must have been something for Vachier. It would be really weird if not. Okay, let's have a look at against Caruana Anand. Wow, my printout here gets very confusing. let's do this. Yeah, so Anand was trailing Carlsen by half a point. So win with black against Caruana would have been great, of course, but well, not easy to do. It's also a little bit about the ranking spot in the top ELO rating list. Of course, Carlsen is leading by a mile, but the second place is actually very, very contested, and Anand is on second place at the moment. Before this game, I mean. And with the draw, he will keep the second place, with the win, of course, as well. And Caruana, with the win, would take over second place. So let's see what we get. Yeah, again, the slowish opening. But as I said, quite often it delays the fight. Anand just going for this classical setup with bishop to e7, ready to play a Catalan, or also play the black side of a King's Indian attack. c4, castles. Yeah, d4 now leads to the main line Catalan. But Caruana goes for b3. This is again a case where the slower looking move is actually the more aggressive one. b3 is more interesting in comparison, as it keeps more pieces on the board and has some interesting attacking ideas. We see some of those ideas in the game. I have some experience with this kind of position, with white. And this is one of the ideas, an early knight h4. This is really early. Quite often I played this position with later knight e1, but it has the same idea. The idea is to clear, to clear the f-pawn to advance. And this is really quite annoying for black often to face. Yeah, you can even sometimes push g4. White is trying for a kingside attack. We have this trade, knight e8. Yeah, eyeing this knight, f4. Yeah, note that black is really absolutely not in a hurry to take the knight. If we look about this, look at this. This is actually opening up the g file for white. Yeah, note that this is a strong bishop, and ultimately there will appear rook on g1 or g3 or something, and it's not a great idea to take the knight. This was played. Knight takes. And now f5 is an idea to get the knight back into play. This is a pretty rare way to play this opening with f5 and knight f4, but it's something that I played myself. I played this only, it was about 2 years ago, I think, in a tournament game, which I unfortunately lost with white, but it was quite interesting, this way of handling the opening. Here the knight comes there. You have ideas, yeah, knight h5. Sometimes you can get in d3 and knight e4. It's quite an interesting position. Knight c7, d3, and this. They're a very radical solution, but a good one. You don't really quite often see this. Just taking with a, at least from a purely optical point of view, good bishop against the knight, but the knight coming to e4 was a very annoying prospect. So just taking it and shutting down the diagonal was a good idea. Yeah, Caruana went to h3, keeping this on the board. Knight to e6.
Check.
They traded, and knight d8, yeah, rerouting to c6. Yeah, that's all very sound and solid. And simply put, drawish after this. They played a couple of more moves. It's not that they immediately agreed to a draw, but there is really little to play for. White looks like a minuscule, a little bit better, but it's really nothing serious. Yeah, this gets shut down, and also here. When did they agree to a draw? Here they repeated and then agreed to a draw. Yeah, there's really no way forward. The position is just too closed. Nothing happening. So Caruana tried here with this Reti opening, trying to do something with many pieces on the board, but it seemed like Vichy defended precisely. So unless Carlsen is losing his final round game, he will win this event, and we will look at Carlsen's game now. And it means that Anand is the number 2 player in the upcoming rating list for May 1st, which is really great, right? I mean, if you're a fan of him or not, but being 45 years old and being the number 2 player in the world again, I mean, people really were screaming he should retire after the 2013 World Championship match, and he simply didn't. He got his second match against Magnus by winning the candidates, and now he's the number 2 rated player. This is just great. Okay, let's see the final round game there. Carlsen with white against Mamedyarov, the local number 2 player. And where are my notes? Here they are. Yeah, Mamedyarov having a very solid event. He played 7 draws, lost 1 game, but now he has to play black against the world champion in the final round. It's not the easiest of tasks. Okay, what do we get? We get a Slav by transposition with bishop f5. We had this earlier in the event. I think it wasn't this Mamedyarov with black? I'm not quite sure. We had this earlier in the event, this precise line, and I mentioned some details there. I'm not quite sure what the precise pairing was. Okay, but we can look at this here. Rook d1. Yeah, this is identical, by the way, to the game Carlsen Nakamura. of the Shamkir tournament last year, exactly 1 year ago. In this game back then, Nakamura went for bishop c3. He just took the knight there. Mamedyarov plays bishop to a5, just protecting the bishop by retreating it. Why protecting it? The thing is that if you play the normal looking move knight bd7, this is really a surprising mistake, as knight d5 wins a pawn. It looks strange. Why does this win a pawn? Yeah, knight d5, cd5, and now we have this situation. Black takes, and now d takes e6. The knight here is hanging. Intermediate move, d takes e6, and this nets white a pawn at the end. Yeah, bishop a5 takes, and white here is on this level basically winning. It's a pawn and a big center, so that's it. So knight bd7 is a big mistake. So black has to do something, but what exactly is not clear. As I said, Nakamura took on c3. Bishop a5, and now a4 was played, gaining some space and preparing the upcoming move b4. Interesting. The same idea, but this time it's not winning material, as after what did he do? E takes, bishop takes, he can play rook e8. Yeah, and it's not winning material because b4 gave away a pawn in the first place. However, now after a5, white is retaining certainly a certain positional advantage, simply because of the b6 pawn, the b7 pawn. It's backward on the b file, and when you move it, the a pawn will always trade against it. So this is a very nice position for white. Definitely a good opening result for the world champion. And this is a kind of position where you have to be patient as white and sit on it for a while. Yeah, just trying to improve slowly. And he did that as usual. He's really very good at those kind of positions. Yeah, bishop b4. This is trading a bit, but the bishop on e1 wasn't a great piece. Knight e4 and knight c5, trading knights as well. Yeah, okay, black takes, pawn takes, and now we have a situation where, of course, long term only white can be better, as those two pawns are stopping 3 pawns here by black on the king side. And
check
here, and queen f7 was played. White will always be better here, but the question is, can you win the game? This is really also not clear to me, to be perfectly honest. White is better, but is it something that can be transformed into a win ultimately? Queen g4, trying for rook to d7, f5. He certainly wanted to provoke that weakness. Rook e4, queen e7.
Check.
And the rook invaded here on d6. Yeah, and now this is precisely the critical position. Mamedyarov defended this quite well up to this point, and he had, the ICC clock here is showing 9 minutes, which is probably not totally precise, but it's usually the ballpark is right. Yeah, he maybe had 8 or 10 minutes or so, but he certainly wasn't down to seconds or something like that. And now, in fact, he's playing the decisive mistake. It's just like that, which basically gives the game away. It's very unclear if white does have anything substantially, if black is playing better. For example, if you just play, let's say you play rook, sorry, not that one, my mouse again, play rook e5, let's say, yeah, just staying and not doing very much. How is white going to win? Of course, he's always claiming 2 pawns stop 3, but these are also unprotected, or let's say they are a bit weak. And I don't really see how white is going to win here. Let's say go here. Again, the black is just staying there. Can always attack the pawn. I'm not sure. I mean, white can certainly claim a slight edge simply because of the structural advantages, but can he win? It's very, very difficult to believe. Yeah, he played queen e5, and well, Carlsen just went here, and now Mamedyarov resigned. As simple as that. The problem is this queen g6, check, and rook d8, and that's it. You have absolutely no defense. G6, how do you protect G6? It's over. The queen e5 was really a big, big blunder. Yeah, the only thing that black can do to prevent the immediate loss of everything, let's say, is a queen move back, yeah, somewhere here. And then
Check.
white takes this with check, king back, and now, yeah, whatever. This is a total win now. Without the f-pawn, it's totally winning. White can play whatever, and he dominates, yeah. Black has no way to free himself. White can just push king side up quite easily. White is totally winning. Yeah, so a disappointing finish for Mamedyarov here. He really defended well against the world champion, but then gave it away with a more or less one move blunder here in this final round. On the other hand, Carlsen had a great result. He got to an almost 3,000 performance rating in this event. Yeah, he has one or two of those already in his career, but this was one of the finest performances that he put together. Close to 3,000 performance is simply outlandishly high. He gained a couple of rating points, putting his distance to number 2, which is now Vachier-Anand, to more than 70 points, which is quite a bit at that level. I mean, 70 points. To put this into perspective, if you don't know the ELO rating system too well, I mean, for him to lose 70 points, he would actually, let me calculate that a little bit. He has to lose about, let's say, if he would play a match against Anand, yeah, and you want Carlsen to lose 70 points, he would need to lose about 12 games in a row to lose 70 points. 12 games in a row, and this is quite unbelievable that this ever happens. Did I calculate that right? No, he loses about 6 points per game. His expectancy is about 6. He loses about 6 points per game, so maybe he has to lose 10 games or something, but really a lot. 70 points at that level is really much, really a big distance. Yeah, so a great event here for the world champion. Second place for Vachier-Anand, and also second place in the world rankings. What else? Caruana had a decent event. I think it wasn't. But he expects more of himself, I guess. But it was quite decent, and we had many players on -2, like Kramnik, for example, who certainly was disappointed. And he also said that he's not planning to retire from chess. He only cancelled this grand, what is this called? This grand world tour of chess. Yeah, those 3 big events, he cancelled that due to other commitments. He's not planning to retire, and it's a good thing. I really think that if people enjoy chess, and Kramnik is a great player, so why would he retire? Same for Anand. Yeah, he's still able to really play great chess. So. And those old young clashes are really interesting to watch. Yeah, when you watched Kasparov playing on the weekend, yeah, of course it's just blitz and rapid, but he's still pretty good, right? Would be great to see him play more of those exhibition matches. But as he said in his interview after the match, he wouldn't be able to really perform well against the super top players of today, and I think he's probably realistic about that, but he certainly can put up a fight. I'm pretty sure about that. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the coverage of that event. Been a long video, this final one, but it was about 2 rounds, and I really was very brief on some of the games. Sorry if you're a fan of a particular player and those games were a bit short in coverage, but you have to cut some corners. Yeah, thanks for watching. And yeah, this is released on a Monday, so I've got a Monday live show in. If you watch it exactly on the release date, make sure to watch that as well. Thanks, guys. Bye.